Welcome to my channel where op sends an HOA Karen packing. Our next Reddit post is from a user. So this happened about 3 years ago in a small town in Florida. For some context, I live on a dead-end street with maybe 10 houses on it. The houses are close together, and most of the owners have been there for 20 years or more. The last few years, though, we've had new people moving into some of the houses and stirring up drama where there was none before. For example, my neighbor across the street, who has lived there for 28 years, had an old truck parked in his driveway with a camper shell. It was an eyesore, but whatever. One day he got a letter from the HOA saying that he had to get rid of it or they were going to start fines. He said fine and proceeded to burn the truck and camper shell to the ground. Now this brings me to the story. So at the beginning of last year, I bought a 2021 Harley Davidson Road Glide. I'd always wanted one since I was 16, and finally being able to afford one, I was stoked. It's black with pink flamingos all over it. Yes, flamingos, don't ask. I love the bike, and I ride it everywhere I go. Well, a few months after I bought it, I got a letter from the HOA saying that I wasn't allowed to park my bike out front. I read through the HOA rules, and they literally said nothing about bikes. I looked up the rule in the HOA document. It said no inoperable vehicles. This was getting ridiculous, so I decided to call the cops. While I was on the phone with the cops, my neighbor across the street came out front to see what was going on. When he saw the cop car, he ran inside, came back out with his own motorcycle, an old beat-up Honda, and parked it in his driveway. The cop looked at it and said, "Sorry, but that's not a vehicle, that's a motorcycle. I don't have to do anything about it," and he left. When the cop left, I went back inside and wrote an email to the HOA president. I told her about the situation, and I copied the state attorney. The next day, I get a call from the HOA president asking me what I want to do. She was very nice, and we talked about it for a while. Long story short, she backed down. A few days later, I got a letter from the HOA stating that I can park my bike out front until further notice. The state attorney was awesome. I didn't even end up meeting him, but he still got a copy of the letter. And just to add to the story, about a month ago, I was home for Christmas and I was riding my bike around town. I stopped by my favorite cigar shop, and when I pulled up, who do I see outside but my crazy neighbor? He sees me and starts yelling at me about my bike. I just laughed and kept riding. But before I got far, I heard him revving his engine. He came flying out the driveway on his ancient piece of crap bike and sped off down the road. As I sped away from him, I saw him make a turn and lose control. His bike went down and he slid on the pavement. I didn't stop because I didn't want to get involved. But karma's a holly, baby. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't stop and help him. Because then that would have been your fault he crashed. Also, what kind of HOA allows motorcycles but not Harleys? That sounds like discrimination. Down in the comments, we have this story from another user. Years ago, when I lived in a condo, there was a big fight in the condo association meeting about whether a particular unit could keep a motorcycle in their parking space. It was a huge deal. There were 2 or 3 different meetings just on this topic. Finally, it went to a vote. The guy with the bike lost by 1 single vote. A couple weeks later, he brought the bike to the next meeting. Everyone was angry. He explained that he de-appealed to the state, and the state said he could park it there because it's not a vehicle. It's a motorcycle. That was a Tuesday. By Thursday, the state had made the association president and the board member who voted against him personally liable for the cost of his appeal and ordered them to pay his legal fees. They lost their power. He served on the board, and they never messed with him again. That's actually a pretty great story. Thanks for sharing that. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also hit that subscribe button because I put out new videos every single day.